at a lot of the interviews because they'll start off, "Hi, how are you?" And it's like, y'all been talking for an hour, so,
right? Exactly.
So don't even don't do that. But again, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for letting me come and sit down with you today, as I'm here in Colorado, working with some other groups, and Doug Wells of Doug Wells Photography. It's not Douglas Wells.
It's Doug. Well, it's actually just Wells Photography. Okay. Is the studio name.
Okay. Well, some folks in our community may know you, and others may not. So I'm going to just kind of open it up and let you tell us what you'd like for us to know about you, and maybe one thing that no one knows.
That no one knows. Okay. So I got interested in photography in high school. My yearbook editor, and we had a dark room, and I just got fascinated with it, and then went to Rochester Institute of Technology to study photography. And upon graduation, came out to Denver and started up my own business. And I grew up here, and how I got started is my parents made me a list of all the families they knew with little kids, and I went around door to door with my portfolio with the cellophane sleeves over the pictures, and asked if I could do a session with the kids and the family and the dog, and that's actually what led to volume photography, because one of those families was involved in a preschool down the street, and that's where my true love of volume photography started, with that little tiny school. And also I loved the annual reoccurrence of having a contract predictability. And so I kind of cultivated the schools from there. And one of your questions about how getting started, I had a different angle about getting into schools, which might be interesting to your viewers. And that is that I would get parent support before I walked in the door. So a PTA member, I always ask parents, where do your kids go to school? And then I kind of gently lead into, who's your photographer? Right. And I'd love to put in a bid. And then if they liked me, hopefully they would say, well, let me make the first call. Yeah. And so the schools that I booked, I think they were booked before I even walked through the door.
Awesome. Those are some of the most amazing, powerful allies that you could ever have.
Right.
And, 'cause those are the people that they listen to.
Right.
Those are the people whose pain they need to solve. And if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, here's a medicine, get this," when people do that, we see some incredible results. It's amazing how many people hear that and don't try to cultivate that.
Right.
So that's awesome. And it's great that you started that way.
Right.
So how long did you say you've been in photography?
Since I graduated college in '87, so June of '87 is when I really started. But the first 2 years were out of my apartment, and I barely made enough to survive. Yeah. So I bought this freestanding studio in '89, and that's when things really started to look
take
up.
Off.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. So changed a little bit in the neighborhood in the last few years. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Denver's grown a lot too.
Yeah, it has. Awesome. Well, so you were still film when you started going around working on families and
that sure. For the first 13 years I was film.
So how was that switch over to digital? Painful or fun?
Oh, it was very fun because I love technology, but the first job I did with digital, I had my camera set on, it was the old Fuji S1, if anybody remembers that camera, but I had it set on web size files. So I quickly learned, there's different files.
Yeah. But our studio in Dallas used a lot of the S1s, and they were workhorses.
Yeah, they sure were.
They were
loved
tough.
them. Yeah.
Excellent. So, I typically at this point I would ask someone about what was your life before photography, but I think this has kind of been your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of kids go off and start life mowing lawns around the neighborhood, and we'll come back around in a bit. But I think you've flip that on its head, and that's great, and it's awesome to see someone that has come into the business and been able to navigate through all of the changes, like switching to digital, or switching to online, or switching. And I know that y'all can't see the studio here, but there are beautiful portraits, seniors and wedding portraits, and so the work is great, and I know that's always a help when you're going out to talk to schools and sports leagues and that kind of thing. Yes. What's the biggest change that you've seen, say, in the last 2 years with regard to volume photography that you think is going to stay with us going forward?
Online ordering.
Yeah.
Online gallery viewing. I think parents are demanding it now. I think the days of prepaid and envelope and writing a check are either gone or should be gone.
I did not pay him to say that. He just said that all on his very own. That's people roll their eyes at me sometimes because pocket flyers and I don't get along. I despise the old-fashioned pocket flyers.
Well, schools hate it too, and I think you want to make life as easy as you can for the schools. Mm-hmm. So, but collecting envelopes and homeroom teachers, collecting all that, and stuff.
It kind of takes us back to putting a canister of film in an envelope and sending it off to Fox and waiting 2 weeks to get it back, and then discovering that something was screwed up on it. Right. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. And so, as we talked about earlier, the American concept of prepay, we also see that COVID has kind of pushed that aside a little bit and given people an excuse to go with proofing. Your work, what do you, as far as your volume work, are you all proofing on everything? Online proofing?
Through GotPhoto, yes. I don't usually actually use that term, so it's interesting you do. I call it an online gallery.
Yeah.
And letting the parents, A, choose their yearbook, and B, choose a digital download, which I love because I'm out of it. I mean, I download right from the site. And I hope what is coming is a digital ID, and I talked to GotPhoto about that.
There are more and more conversations. Yeah, and
can you imagine that first page? Choose your yearbook. Download your digital ID. Oh my gosh, that would save me just so much.
And technology's there. We know that it's catching up and it's pushing forward, and so I think we'll see some good changes over the next 6 months.
Right.
In that sense.
Right.
Before we get too far into this, tell me about your volume photography. I mean, obviously you do individual sessions as well, but what type of volume work do you do?
So schools and one sports league. Sports league that I do is through one of my high-end schools, and to be honest, I do it just so it's really hard to get rid of me.
Oh yeah.
I think the more integrated you can be with a school, the harder it is to get rid of you. Sports is not my favorite, but I know people love it, so that's fine.
Even though I look like a coach, I'm obviously not an athlete, but the sports leagues have been good to the family, so it's one of those things. I don't have to go run the laps to do the portraits and that kind of thing. So, but I get it. I know exactly what you mean. But go ahead.
And I had some preschool accounts, but to be honest, I let them go as I got older, just because it was.
Were you making grandpa noises when you got up?
Yeah. Boy, I can photograph 5, kids versus the little tot that I've got in front of me for preschool. Yeah. So as far as money goes, and there are probably people at it that are much better than I am, but I had to let things go. So K through 8 is my primary target. I do have one high school where my kids do go, so I've hung on to that, and they've got a beautiful campus. I do all outdoor photography. My tagline all these years was try to give parents a little bit more than the traditional school photography, charge a little bit more. And that motto is paid off, especially when I'm approaching a new school.
Very cool. Well, as we look back through your business, and I think it's okay conversationally to let everybody know that you've kind of decided that it's time, you put in the miles and you're going to relax a little bit, keeping some key accounts,
right?
But start a transition. We're too young to retire. I think we probably are about the same age, which would be 42. But but as you do that, transitioning into replacement photographer and that kind of thing. But as you look back over the business, what's been the best thing that you've done personally to help either drive the business forward or to secure the business so that it survived, or just that has made the biggest positive impact?
Okay. Well, mine was hiring the right people, and no offense to men, but I think women do a better job with school photography than men do. So hiring a young, energetic, big smile, well-dressed female that maybe can even relate better to kids than I can, and maybe get them to open up and smile a little bit more than I can, was a great move. And so that was one great aspect, but the other aspect of not getting burned out. When you're photographing, I have 9 schools, which to some photographers is not a lot, but when you're a sole proprietor, small business, it is a lot. Going to set up your risers and set up, and I photograph all outdoors, so I'm setting up tents and lights and things like that, and then to photograph all day and then tear it all down without help is tough. So I was looking at that question last night, and that's what really stuck in my mind, is hiring some great people to help you in the journey.
And in our conversations with people over the last decade, everybody needs a different first hire. For some people, it's a salesperson because they're not the type of person to go out and book the business. For others, it's a roadie. I can go do the marketing, but physically I can't go set all that up that you're talking about, that kind of thing. So for everybody, it's a little bit different, but it is tough to, you hit a ceiling if you're trying to do it all yourself, and there's only so many weeks in a season and so many hours in a day. So it can get you for size of events too.
And it's more fun to have somebody there with you. And we haven't talked about the liability, but I don't think, especially a male photographer, should be alone with any kids at any time. I think you should always have somebody there with you.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree. I agree completely. So what was the worst thing that happened in business over the years?
I think the stigma of being a school photographer. And I've tried gently marketing my school photography to high school seniors, families, mitzvahs, because those are all in kind of that target school, range of the kids I photograph for volume photography. Yeah. But many parents think of school photographers as not having, creativity, or I don't want a school photographer photographing my son or daughter's mitzvah.
Because in their mind is their Life Touch picture in their yearbook from 1987, and that's what they think they get for something else that ought to be more creative. Yeah,
I'd love to hear other people. That's always been a hot topic of mine, and maybe it's more of an ego thing. I actually didn't even need the money to go photograph their family or their mitzvah, but just to be ruled out because I was a school photographer, it kind of hurt my ego a little bit.
I can see that. So did you come up with get through most situations response to that?
Not to the level I wanted to. Yeah. The best was if I could get people to my studio for whatever reason, to pick up pictures or to have a...
If they walk in the door here,
they're
again, this is a beautiful place.
They're going to see.
They would know it's different.
Know. Yeah. But they don't meet me on picture day. So they don't know my face and I'm clean cut, well dressed,
Right,
and
right.
I come from a good family. They don't know any of that. They just see the pictures online.
One of the things we found really since COVID, we use QRs so much more now, and having a page that kind of shows you here in this room or those kind of things, just as an introduction, and a QR, even if it's on a yard sign out front, something somewhere that they could just, because you can scan from 20 feet away, and that might open that introduction. We're finding now that members are being able to take advantage of that, and we didn't have that even just a few years ago. People weren't as comfortable with QRs, so I think there might be some help on the horizon for people to overcome that. But I certainly understand it.
And if I was younger and starting out, I mean, I would probably, ask Got Photo and ask this, this community how to market yourself in addition to, because you've got a tentative audience, but how to reach them.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of on my way out, so I'm not going to go there. But if that was always been a little bit of a sticking point.
Yeah. Cool. So let's say all is wiped clean, and you've got to start over, and starting fresh today as a volume photographer in a new city, no customers. What would be the first thing you would do?
I would try to buy my accounts.
Yeah.
I don't think, and some people would prove me wrong, that I could knock on a door at a school, totally unknown, and get that account.
Yeah. So using, so that everybody understands, buying the accounts either rebate wise or payment in kind. Hey, we'll take care of and do maybe family portrait sessions for the coaches or banners.
I'm talking about buying them from another photographer.
Oh, I got you.
So
okay.
Either buy school accounts outright, either from a national company that might have accounts in that city, or approach photographers that are in that city and say, hey, I'd love some school accounts. Can I pay you 20% per year for 3 years and ease me into the business?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And maybe you don't get any takers, but I would knock on the doors of the well-known studios, the well-known volume. And maybe it doesn't
if you caught
evolve.
someone that was a little overwhelmed and they weren't doing a very good job, you might get a taker on that.
Yeah.
And I could see that. Yeah.
And if it didn't go directly that path, maybe they say, oh, well, come shoot for me, or there's a lot of avenues that could take, but I would not have the personality to knock on school doors, and I think that'd be tough.
Okay. So one of the terms that I use a lot are rifle or shotgun. So would you focus like a rifle on one thing and drive that deep, or would you more of shotgun and do a little bit of everything?
I would do a little bit of everything. I think it would be hard to pay the bills being shotgun.
Unless being a rifle, going deep.
Right.
Yeah, until you can get it. Okay.
Until you can get it.
So starting with a little bit of everything, finding out what clicks, and then maybe pushing that deeper.
And it depends on how old you are as well, because if you're out of college or you're in your young 20s, maybe you don't know that I loved volume photography, and as I got more into it, and very candidly, I loved the money behind it too. I think that there's very good money, and you're not chasing the next paycheck. You always have those. As long as you service that account well, that's a reoccurring contract you have. And it's worth something. But you might love doing high school seniors, love doing weddings, and maybe you want to do a little bit of everything until you know what you want to do.
Sometimes we want to do one thing, and we find out that something else wants to do us.
Right.
That we're a better fit over there instead of over here.
Right.
So realistically, how long do you think it would take before you were taking home somewhere around 60 grand?
Taking home 60.
Started over.
A lot of variables in there.
Obviously there are.
Your studio space and your,
Sure.
Well, for me, it was was 2 years and when I started, but I have a lot more knowledge under my belt now. I would stick with that 2 years. I don't think 60 is. I mean, if somebody's, especially you could be second shooter. You know, there's ways to market yourself being second shooter, and that often leads to being, you know, other.
That
stuff.
seems to kind of be the watershed moment where someone can. That's that one person show kind of level, and then it kind of escalates up to the next level. And I agree with your number. I always want to know what people think on their side. I came from a 6-figure salary, came over, spent 6 months doing nothing, and then the next year I came back up to a 6-figure income, but so it was about 18 months. But I self-admittedly that first 6 months just sat because I was kind of recovering from some other things, and so. Sometimes people will tell me that they feel it would take them 5 or 8 years. I'm like, no, it should not. And so I like to hear that number. Yeah, if it is, there's some other challenge there, I think. So
the other thing is let your ego go, and you know, you meet a lot of photographers that have an ego. Oh, that's beneath me.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make it, I would take the business.
Well, yeah, and if you're going to do that, whatever, you know, that my sessions are $10,000 sessions. Well, that's great, but I don't really foresee you doing that in a volume environment. You know, there are $800,000 cars out there, and that's great, you know, for that market. But don't expect to walk into even a private school come out with that same kind of average. Cool. So as we kind of look at things down the road, we talked about transitions and bringing, you know, as you work with your schools and kind of get them prepared to possibly wean off to a replacement photographer, what do you think would be the most important thing that you impressed upon a successor, whoever that might be down the road, a new photographer coming in to take your counts? What would be, and this is a question I didn't give to you on there, sorry, but what do you think would be something that would be of real internal value to you that they either possessed or knew or promised to do?
That's a great question. I think the answer is that somebody who has worked with me at those schools for X number of years, they know about volume photography. They built a rapport with staff, faculty, teachers at each of these schools. So it's a gentle transition, and that they want it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they show interest in that process, I think it's a fun process. I love school day as much as all the operations, uploading the images and creating the galleries. I think that stuff's a blast. So they would have to embrace that process.
Working through the workflow, including putting data in and getting QRs and all. It's all fun. So, because I know there were some eye rolls at that moment. Some people really struggle with that, and it's like, just slow down, keep you a coffee or a Monster or a wine or a whiskey, whatever it is, and just relax through it, and let it flow.
Yeah, but don't print your QR codes the morning of.
No.
Your printer might jam.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stressed when you're doing that.
Yeah.
But that would be my simple answer, that just somebody that would like the accounts, enjoys the process, good with kids, and has worked with you at these schools.
That's excellent. That's good. Cool. Was there anything that you would, any one or two action steps that you would recommend to volume photographers, whether they're trying to reinvigorate a business that they've had for 10 or 15 years, or maybe starting out trying to get into volume photography?
Okay. I I have one suggestion, and that is just with volume photography, you are going to get some clients that are going to rub you the wrong way, and try to keep the big picture, because one or two parents complaining to administration, you'll lose the account. And maybe go into the shoot, into the fall, thinking, all right, I'm going to have 10 rude clients this fall. This is what I do. And as they come in, all you do is check them off, and they won't bother you. But don't confront. You have to give in. And even if you're right, just give in. And I promise you don't want to lose an account because of an angry mom.
Yeah, and that attitude. I was in a store recently and went in for a product, and one of the Geek Squad gals came up to me and she asked me, and I told her what I was looking for. She said, "Oh, well, Best Buy doesn't carry that." And I was not in the mood to have the conversation further, so I went out to the truck, got in the truck, pulled up that product, and the very first thing on the thing was Best Buy. And it told me if I were back home, I could go pick it up at my Best Buy immediately, sitting on the shelf, ready for it. So I went back in and I asked the gentleman at the front in the yellow shirt, I said, "Hey, can you see this?" And he saw it, said Best Buy. I said, "Do you know where I could find that?" And he pointed to the back. He said, "If we have it in the store, it's going to be over here and right over there, right over there." I said, "I don't know if we carry that because we're a little smaller store, but if we do, it'll be right there." Totally different response, and made me feel a lot better. I mean, I was frustrated when I left her, and so that exact same thing. Sometimes we let the passion of the moment or something else in life frustrate us and blow up at someone, and it totally changes the customer's response. I'll go back in there after the yellow shirt guy, but the lady in the black shirt had frustrated me to the point that if I was a new customer,
right,
I wouldn't have ever graced the doors again. So I think that's next, and I think it's a great idea to just put you a little check sheet of, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have 10, and you just check them off. And, if you only have 7, hey, that's awesome. And if you have 11, then it's like, oops, why? And maybe look at what caused extra.
Right. And a few people have the personality that they want to try to get a deal or try to get, for you to give. And just try to work through that rather than being a problem. That's
the last year or two, I think, where some years we didn't necessarily have anyone that says, "Hey, I didn't get my package," just so you'd send them another one. This year, yeah, we have, but we know it's a postal issue, And I have gotten packages in the mail 2 years after the lab shipped them.
Yeah.
But it depends on the lab, of course. But labs have been pretty good since COVID to just kick a new set out, take care of them. I'm not going to argue about it. Here you go. Who do you use now? Arclitex.
Yep.
So they have good service for you. Do good things.
Fabulous. I don't know a lot about labs on a national level, so I don't have a lot to compare it to. I was with Pounds and now with Arclitech. Pounds, I had an entire school stolen off the front porch of the studio, and Miriam reprinted and sent it to me without charging me. And that was very stressful because it was due at school. But anyway, Arclitech, just wonderful quality. I photograph outside, like I said earlier, so I check-marked that 20 cents a image color correction, and things are. I think that's all computerized, but it's really
works really well.
Because my color temperatures and things vary a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, even sitting here, I can see subtle variations with high clouds or whatever. I can see it change.
Yes.
And you try. We're always very envious because our New Jersey guys, our folks up in the Northeast, that's kind of a conversation point the last year or two of we all shoot outside. And in Dallas, we look at that like, which week is available to shoot outside? Right. There's not a week in our year that we can do that.
Denver's different.
It's great. Yeah, it's great weather up here. My son's running down in Colorado Springs at the Nike, at the college there on the Nike camp. And so they went and running in the Garden of the Gods and up at Monument Hill and stuff. And so they've had some beautiful scenery to run through.
Good.
Excellent. Any business books or coaching or anything that you might have to recommend?
SPAC. I mean, if you're into volume photography, I would go to SPAC, and that's the annual conference in February. And then if you're into general, the WPPI, which I believe is still in February, is a very good, overall. Still, it's probably still geared towards weddings. It always has been. There's still a lot of information in there. Just try not to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I used to walk out of that very excited, but again, very overwhelmed. And
that's why systems is here, right? Because if you do get overwhelmed, you got a place to go talk about it. So,
and try not to spread yourself too thin. When you come back from conferences, sometimes you think, "Oh, I'm going to do this and this and this," and try to just remember the direction that you want to go, and
keep it to one or two, maybe 3 action steps, and put the others aside for later. But tackle these first. Yeah, you'll get them done, more likely. So, excellent. Well, Mr. Wells, I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you for coming.
It's been fun. It's
good chatting with
you. It is gorgeous studio, and I wish you well. Even though you'll still have lots of volume, you still have lots of work to do. But so share with everyone what the next chapter is. I think it's awesome, and I think it's very relevant to.
I'm almost embarrassed to say.
No, don't be. I think it's great.
Well, I'm toying with the idea of starting a all electric lawn service in Denver, and there's not one of them that I have found. But I think people are becoming more environmentally conscious, and I think those blowers that the lawn services use should be outlawed. I mean, they pollute so much. So. That's my angle.
I was sharing with Doug earlier that we were just talking about getting an electric mower 2 days ago, and he's exactly right. And of course, everybody's talking about the electric vehicles, but we all know that lawnmowers and those blowers and all the little gas 2-stroke engines, my boat, they all put out so much more.
They're not regulated, exactly.
And so I think I think Denver would be a perfect place for it. So it'd be really fun to watch.
It'd be a fun adventure that I'd like to try.
Yeah, cool, excellent. Well, we wish you the very best, and as you stay in the volume work, kind of transitioning things out. Please stay in touch, and we'd love to see you in the community, and anything we can ever do, just let me know.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.